They are energy bunnies, to say the least, and they are ruthless in the things they desire, which I love.
If you think being a dad is filled with rewards, challenges, or headaches, and you keep pushing forward because you know this is the most important job you're ever going to do, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Dad's All In podcast. Welcome into the Dad's All In podcast, everybody. I hope you're doing great. I hope your family is staying well and healthy. I'm just glad you're here, my friend. You are in for a treat today. I have Chris Mukiibi with me, who is a high school teacher, but we're not talking about high school teachering today as much as we are talking about toddlering today and the lifestyle and the challenges that come with it of being a dad with toddlers. Chris, man, I'm so glad you jumping on with me. I'm so fortunate to be able to get to know you a little bit and connect with you a few times. Can we start off with just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and just give us a quick dad story, whatever you want to share with us?
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me on, Kyle. I really appreciate it. It's also been a great pleasure to get to know you as well. So yeah, a little bit about me. My name is Chris. I live in California. I'm a high school teacher. Like you said, I teach chemistry. I have a lot of fun doing that. But my biggest job, I would say, is that I am a father and I'm a husband to two little girls, 2 and 3. Actually, my 3-year-old's going to be 4. Oh my goodness. Um,
Time
she's gonna
flies,
be.
man.
It does. Gosh, wow. I'm having this moment on the podcast. Yeah, she's gonna be 4 in about 2 weeks, which I cannot believe.
Hmm.
I know I hear parents say that all the time,
Yep.
but for me, every time it's unbelievable. But yeah, I got two little girls. They are um, energy bunnies, to say the least, and they are ruthless in the things they desire, which I love. I absolutely love that for them. Sometimes it's a little too much, and I feel like it's kind of my role as the dad to like temper it down a bit, but they got that fire in them, which is great. Recently, actually, it's so funny. So we're recording this on a Sunday. I actually took tomorrow off because I'm just exhausted.
Hmm.
I'm so tired, and it's because last week I took him to Disneyland,
Wow.
and it
That'll
was
do it.
oh yeah, and it was the first time I went to Disneyland with kids.
Hmm.
Me and my wife, we went to college in, at the same time. And during that time, we both had annual passes to Disneyland. And I lived at the time about 10 minutes away. So we would just go all the time. We had our routines. We pretty much had our Disney adventures down. And this last week, one of my friends was gracious enough to bring us along to Disneyland. And my daughters are obsessed with princesses. And so they had their princess dresses, they had some princess dolls, and they were ready to just go to town, take meet all the princesses, take all the pictures. And just as a side note for those that are educators that know what this is like, I scheduled 3 lectures the same week that I'm going to Disneyland. And for you chemistry teachers, I also scheduled a lab that had to do with fire this week as well. And so this week I was just beyond tired, and I didn't realize it until I got there. Um, but then, so we end up going to Disneyland, and it was so surprising that I had more fun watching them had fun
Mm-hmm.
than I ever have doing anything else. And I realized that this is the joy of being a father.
Yep.
It's access to a much deeper sense of satisfaction and happiness and joy. Now it doesn't come for free. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
It's paid in blood, sweat, tears, energy, sleeplessness, worry, right? But all of the cost fails in comparison to the joy. And there was a moment where my daughters are funny. They're obsessed with Princess Belle from Beauty and the Beast,
Yep.
and of course Queen Elsa,
Sure.
naturally. And so one of them had a Belle dress, and one of them had an Elsa dress. And my friend who went with us told us that my daughters can get whatever they want, however much they want. And I said, well, you want to be a little careful with that. And she was like, no, I stand by it. I was like, okay.
Free
And
reign.
so right. And so we go there, and the night before we go to downtown Disney, and we go to the candy shop, and my girls, they see the biggest lollipop they've ever seen, and they immediately ask for it. And my friend says, "Yeah, of course, we can get it for them." And there was a moment where both of them were standing there in their princess dresses, and they had their giant lollipops, and they were just licking their lollipops and having this good old time. And there was this vision, or this, I guess, visual that I had, um, that was just so perfect, man.
Hmm.
It was so perfect to see my daughters just happy as hell, eating these lollipops in their cute little dresses, knowing they're about to have the time of their lives the next day, which they did, which they did. And in the middle of it, I was still exhausted. I came off 2 days of lecturing all day about electron configuration, uh, driving up to Anaheim right after school. Just as tired as can be, but I was just so happy to see them enjoying themselves. And I didn't even care that the lollipops cost me $25.
Oh my God.
And I would do it over and over again.
Right.
And I've noticed that with my daughters, um, it's just they've given me this, I guess, renewal of life
Hmm.
that I never knew existed. And I tell everyone that I think having kids is a goal you should take seriously. I don't think everyone should do it. Of course, it's a personal choice, but it is such a wonderful thing, and I cannot help but believe that it is what we're built for.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you're like, all of a sudden, I guess as a young man, you're going through life. It's all about you, right? Like life is about you. And then
100%.
you have kids, you meet your significant other, and then it's obviously more than just you, but it is a different level of just embracing sacrifice and understanding of what it means to be a person who gives everything to somebody else and our kids, right?
Yeah.
But I completely understand like the satisfaction you get when you see your kids do something. And it's hard to put into words, and it's surprising. I think probably to just about every dad. You're like, wow, whether it be kids having fun on the playground, or whether it be on vacation, or your kids on the athletic field, or maybe
Hmm.
it's they're on stage and they're singing, who knows. But you see them doing things, and it just makes your heart swell. So
Yeah.
it is completely understandable exactly what you're saying. I really am excited about our conversation because, this particular podcast has been rolling for a while, and I have yet to dive into the toddler years. My wife and I, we are well past our toddler years, but we very much remember the joys and the challenges. And what's interesting, when you look back, this happened just yesterday. We're looking, you get the memories that pop up on your phone or pop
Yeah.
up in your Facebook feed, whatever. And you look, and it's all like these amazing memories of your kids when they're real young, doing silly things that makes you laugh, and you forget about like the challenges that come with it.
Oh yeah.
And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the struggles, but let's
Oh
let's
yeah.
start here first, though. So, like fatherhood, toddler, or beyond, just in general,
Yes.
what do you think like is the general role that you see as a father?
Oh yeah, lots of things. I mean, so there's being a father, which I think has a lot of different roles, that comes with it. I think it's, in so far from my experience, the most evolved form of man. Perhaps being a grandfather is different. My dad can speak to that. But I think there are a lot of different roles that we have to play. And so I think about myself and wanting to be a good father, and I think about Aristotle's definition of good. And he says that a good cup is a cup that holds the liquid. Doesn't matter what it's made of, doesn't matter if it's cracked, if it's chipped, if it's old, if it's new. If it fulfills its role, then it is good. And so that made me think about, well, then what is my role as a father? Is it just to give them money? Is it just to protect them? Is it to play with them? And I think that those play into it. But one of the roles that I see myself playing is I need to be able to socialize my kids. I need to be able to be the playground, so to speak, of what the world is like for them. So, they act a certain way. And if I know as a father that will not be accepted out in the world, I show them what would be accepted. Or I let them know, hey, this doesn't work or this does work. And I either will encourage behavior that I think would give them more opportunities and let the world open up to them, or discourage behavior that would prevent them from getting opportunities or close the world to them. So that's one of the roles I would say, is to socialize my kids so they're accepted by the world. And I've noticed, especially as an educator, kids who are well socialized, man, people cannot wait to help them out.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I want my daughters to have as well. I also see the role as to support their mother in any ways that she needs. Me and my wife are great partners, and I see my role as a father to support her, especially when it comes to the kids. And so I'm not afraid to, change some diapers. I literally just did, like 2 hours ago. My girl had, a number two, and then I thought she was done, and then she did it again 20 minutes later, right after I just washed my hands, just prepared the food. So, she's on her own schedule. But I also think the role of a father is to balance firmness and sturdiness with care. And so the way I kind of see that is I imagine myself as like a pilot on the plane. And if I am flying the plane, we're going to go somewhere. We're going to go to our destination. And sometimes the passengers, my daughters, might be crying. They might disagree about where we're going. They might feel scared about where we're going. But my job as the pilot isn't to change the direction of the flight. It's not to create an emergency landing because they're upset. It's to let them know that we're safe, but we're going to go where dad's planning on going. We're going to go where the pilot is flying. And I think that when the kids know that adults are sturdy and firm in that way, I think they feel more calm and they feel safer. And I think that that's also extremely important. Um, but the balancing that with care, I think, is also what is really critical as well. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that I believe the role of the father is to socialize their kids, and part of that is to discourage behaviors that will not be accepted in the world. And so, the way you do that is through punishment. Now, I'm not saying, punish your kids however you see fit. I think that punishment should have a very nuanced view. And so here's the way I see it. I see it as punishment is anything that discourages behavior from going and continuing on. Now, the thing with punishment is I feel like a lot of fathers, especially, will resort to punishment as like a first line of defense. Like, let's punish them first. We see something bad. We think we have to fix it now, and so we'll punish them. But I think it's much better to act with reward first. So reward the behaviors that should be continued. And I think that's difficult for a couple of reasons. One is that it takes patience. You have to wait for them to do the right thing, which takes a little while, especially when they're toddlers.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's almost an act of faith to hope that they're going to do the right thing.
Sure is.
But it also takes attention. You have to notice when they are doing the right thing. And then when you do that, you reward them. Now, my daughters did something earlier that was absolutely not okay. One of them bit the other one and then lied about it. And so now I got injustice going on all over the place. And so I had to punish them. I had to let them know. I had to take away one of their, my daughters love their accessories. Like I said, they dressed like princesses when we went to Disneyland. And so one of the things I had to do, lying is not okay. And my daughters are, at least I'm trying to teach them that if they lie, the punishment doubles.
Hmm.
I'm still working on that one.
Yep.
We'll see. One of them starts laughing when the other one knows she's lying. And so then it becomes like this weird status game. It's hard with two toddlers at once, for sure. But when I punished her, I noticed, and I know this every time, is that the punishment leaves a bad taste in her mouth.
Hmm.
And she feels hurt. And I think it's very important for fathers to address that hurt and that pain when punishment occurs. And so every time, and this is that balance between sturdiness and firmness with care. I let my daughter know, I'm like, hey, that wasn't okay. You did lose in this case, it was a unicorn headband. I was like, you lost your headband, right? But daddy loves you. And then I ask her, do you know why I took the headband? And this is the part where it requires a little bit of faith, because she'll tell me all the other things under the sun. Oh, you did it because you're a bad person. That's her favorite thing to tell me right now. You're bad people. You're bad people. I'm like, okay, that's not why I took it. I took it. But eventually, we get there. It takes about, right now, the first time I tried it with her, it took about 15 minutes for her to understand why she was punished. Now she gets it pretty quickly. It's within like 3 to 5 minutes. Now that's a long time when you're sitting down crouched with a toddler asking the same question over and over again. But eventually she gets there. And then so when she tells me, okay, yeah, I bit my sister. I was like, yeah, that's not good, right? She's like, that's a no-no thing. She just learned that. That's a big deal in our house. There's yes, yes things. There's no-no things. Sometimes they just want to do the no-no things
Yep.
just to see if they can, which I think is good. But I let her know that I care about her and that this only happened because of this bad behavior, not because of who you are as a person, not because of who I am as a person, despite what she may believe. But I think that that part is really important. So it's managing that firmness, right? That socialization aspect, letting them know, like father the judge, right? Still cares. And I think that a lot of parents forget that. I think that, at least, from some of the people I've talked to, they believe the role of the father is to, lay down the law and be firm, which is absolutely important. I don't think that happens in enough households, but then they just leave it at that.
Right.
And I think that balancing that care is super important.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but
So
then also,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah,
I was going to say, and our listeners will have heard me say this many times. When we're talking about working with kids in general,
yes,
this is definitely true with toddlers. It's still true with teenagers. Kids have to know boundaries. Like
yeah,
they're humans. Adults do this too. You're gonna push things until you hit a wall, and then you're like, oh yeah, I can't do that. I can't do it that far anymore. I can't do that anymore. I can't bite this kid anymore. My
yeah,
kid, my son especially, he went through a bit of biting kids, and what a headache that was. Right, but it's learned behavior, and so when
yes,
you're learning behavior, what you're saying is exactly right. They're doing the right thing, praise them, give them plenty of props, right?
yeah,
And when they're not, they need to know there's a boundary there, and they still need to know you love them. But you still have to, they still have to find a way for them to understand. Oh yeah, I'm not supposed to do that anymore, right?
mhm, yeah. Which is hard. It takes a lot of
It
patience,
does, yeah,
especially when you're tired and it's been a long week. It's difficult, but I see that as the challenge that
yeah,
is on my plate.
yep,
Um, I have so many other roles. If you don't mind, if I
yeah. Go
go ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Another one I think is to take responsibility. And this is a really big topic, especially for me because I work with a lot of teenagers, and responsibility is the word to run away
Mm-hmm.
from.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most bad word that exists. But the way I see it is, I see responsibility as taking on the power to control and change your circumstances. Right. So if you are responsible for something, that means you can do something about it. And I think that that's really empowering. And I think that when we run away from responsibility, all that does is it makes us weak and powerless.
Hmm.
And I think fatherhood demands that we are strong and powerful. It needs, our children need us to be that way. And I believe that when a man takes on responsibility, he becomes powerful and he becomes strong, but he also becomes respected. And he becomes respected from himself and from other people. He becomes good. He becomes a blessing for other people. And I think that that is extremely underrated. Every young man that I meet so deeply wants the respect and admiration of others, no matter what he says. That's everything they are trying to get at. And I personally believe that you get that the fastest when you take responsibility for things. And I just think it's a shame that a lot of people run from that word because, in my opinion, it's one of the foundational roles of being a father, which brings us to the most powerful and strongest person we can be. Um, my wife was talking to me about this idea called matrescence, and it's a concept of when women become mothers, they go through significant brain changes. They have like a reduction in gray matter, and their neurons start forming different patterns, and they start thinking differently. And I have a suspicion that it also happens to men too. That when we have kids, it's like our brains get rewired
Hmm.
for the optimization of the child, and not the optimization of us. And I don't think it has to happen for men. I think that it's something that men can lean into, and if they lean into it, it will change them. And I think that that became very apparent to me when I went to Disneyland and I saw that I wanted them to have more fun than
Right.
than me. I mean, I wanted to go on the Star Wars rides and go in the Star Wars cantina and do all that, but and I did during nap time. But I but I truly just wanted them to have a good time. And I think that that was that rewiring in my mind. And so I just see that matrescence. I don't know if there's a word that applies to men for that. Maybe there is, but I think that creates more of a tolerance or more of a desire for responsibility
Hmm.
in men too. But yeah, that's my long speech on what makes a good father.
Hey,
It's
you
going
hit
all
so
those
many great things there, man. And you know, fatherhood is a little bit different for every dad. I think
totally,
is in
absolutely.
your the dad's role can be flexible, the mom's role can be flexible. I
Oh
always
yes.
say like everybody's different. We all have different brains, but at the core, what you're saying makes sense, and it really is this way for hopefully for not just the parents but anybody who's involved with helping. It takes a village. If you're
Oh,
fortunate enough to have more than parents, especially when they're toddlers, it is highly beneficial. But the idea of surrounding your child or your kids with good people who love them and are
yes.
willing to do exactly what we just talked about, praise them, let them know when they're doing well, let them know that they're loved, and then also set some boundaries for them because they need boundaries. Or they're going to keep pushing
Yeah.
those walls. Speaking
Oh
of
yeah.
pushing walls, that is a huge part of toddlerhood, man. Like, so when my son came through the patch of being a toddler, it was for us at least chasing. We were just chasing. He has high energy, especially at that age. Now he's in college. It's different altogether. Challenges are different at every stage of when you're a kid all the way up to young adulthood. The challenges change, but he was just high octane, right? And then we had twins,
Oh my
and
goodness.
we had one. Our one daughter was pretty much like the studious type, right? Like we could ask her to sit, draw, color, she'd do it, run herself. And the other child was more like her father, and she, like my son, had a high octane and she had a big engine. And so toddlerhood can be challenging. It can also be amazing, but
Yeah.
it can be exhausting too. And so
Yes.
sometimes I've always found like one of the biggest challenges of being a dad, being a mom, is that you have to find the joy even though you're tired all the time. Now, that's just one
Yeah.
struggle I'm thinking about on my end. What just dive into any of the struggles of toddlerhood that you want to share.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I think that exhaustion thing is a big one. I mean, before I became a father, I don't think I had anything in my life that was as consistent as my children.
Hmm.
Um, they're my favorite alarm clock, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like getting up early going to work. That's not a fun thing I do. And when the alarm goes off, I'm not in the best mood. And I remember that there was a point when my oldest specifically, she was able to get out of bed and walk over and wake me up. I remember the first time it happened, it was so shocking. And I remember being really cranky and really upset about it. I was like, oh man, I just want to go back to sleep. Like, how are you bothering me? Blah, blah, blah. And throughout that whole day, it just felt wrong. And I was thinking about how um, every morning she's probably going to wake me up. And every morning, am I going to greet her with anger and upsetness and make her feel like I'm not happy to see her? And so I made this switch where if my daughters wake me up, I don't care how I feel, I got to be super excited to see them
Hmm.
because I want them to know that their father is excited to see them.
Yeah.
Um, and that was hard. I'm not saying I did that in a day, and I'm not saying I do that every day. I'm saying that that is my goal.
Yep.
Now I do it most days, and I'm proud to say that. But I think that the exhaustion piece I think is really critical. Um, like for me, it's and maybe because I work with a lot of high schoolers and they're kind of knuckleheads, and so I can be patient with silly behavior. But I do think that the tiredness determines my fuse. I
Sure.
think how tired I am can determine how much I can take
Yeah.
before I start acting in ways that I don't like.
Yep.
And so when I think about expanding my fuse, I think about this concept. Well, I call it my happiness formula. I stole it. I'm sure if you guys Google happiness formula, you will find this lady. But whenever I have a tough time, I basically look at my happiness formula and I try to see if I'm doing the things in that formula. And so this basically came out of best practices at Google. And so what I did is I have a list of activities that improve my physical state, so how I act, that improve my mental state, how I think, my emotional state, how I feel, and my spiritual state, how I feel connected to something bigger than me. And so I have a list of different activities where I prefer to do these things that improve those domains. And my goal is to at least do one of them per day, not one from each category. That's way too difficult, especially being a teacher in toddlers. I've learned that one, my to-do list will never be finished. There is never enough time in the day, and I have to be okay with just letting things go. And so I try to just do one of them. And my biggest thing is moving my body. So as long as I move my body, I notice that everything else kind of gets a little bit better. And so I try to take walks, specifically after bedtime. I think my neighbors might think I'm insane because I'm just walking around for hours at night. But I got toddlers, man. Like this is the only time I have, and that's my advice to anyone with toddlers is all the hours of the day are equal. Like, do not trick yourself into thinking anything else, because the time is truly the limiting reagent, or it's the limiting factor. But I have this happiness formula where it's my physical plus mental plus emotional plus spiritual practices, and I try to boost all of that with exercise. And I noticed that if I'm not doing at least one of those things, like if I go a couple of days without doing any of them, my fuse is shorter. I don't have tolerance for my daughters. I'm not the father that I need to be. I am not that good cup, right? I'm not fulfilling my roles the way I need to. And this is why I think it's like you said, it takes a village. And having toddlers has proven that to me. If there's anything I know that's true in this life, is that having toddlers requires multiple generations of people.
Oh my goodness. It certainly helps. I always feel bad for any single parents who, and especially single parent. I mean, that's tough in itself.
Absolutely.
And then if you're a single parent who doesn't have a network of people who you can rely on, that's a next level challenge.
If you are a single parent with that issue and you feel like it's an impossible task, that's because it is. It is extremely difficult. But I have seen humans overcome the impossible over and over again. And so that doesn't mean it's beyond you. And I think that as long as we stay connected to the bigger purpose, I think it will, the hard times will pass and the fruit will come. And I tell that to myself as well. Like my daughters aren't always going to be so insanely psychopathic, biting, lying, stealing, cheating, doing whatever they can to get what they want. They're not going to be doing that forever. And there'll be a point where they'll be like me. And I have a younger sister who's 4 years younger than me. And I remember when she was born, and I remember when she was a toddler, and I remember all the different stages that she's been. And now she's 26. Like one day my daughters will be that way too. And as long as I can just, especially when I'm stressed, I might be going all over the place, but when I'm stressed, I tend to not look at long time horizons. I tend to shorten my time horizon. And the more stressed I am, the shorter that time horizon becomes. So I noticed that, especially as a teacher, there are some weeks where I'm just getting to Friday for sure. But with teaching and with toddlers, there are some days where I'm just getting through the minute. I'm just getting through the hour. And that's fine, because the time will pass. And as long as I focus on that, I believe I get to fulfill my roles a little bit better. But yeah, that happiness formula I have is honestly, it has been a pillar for me, because every time I notice I'm not acting in a way that I want to be, I'm not being the father I want to be, I'm like, okay, well, am I moving my body? Am I doing something creative? Am I making music? Am I walking in nature? Am I writing? These are the types of things that I need to do. Otherwise I go insane. But that's kind of how I keep it together, because there is no taking time off. I really don't. And anyone with kids could attest to this. Like the days off, you're working double, holidays is double time, no pay. It's,
I think
so you got to have strategies.
You hit the nail on the head when you said, you got to maximize whatever time you have available. And it is evident when you're working with young kids, toddlers especially, the time you have available is going to be like nap time or when they go to bed at night, like those. And so what I remember of it is that, if I would sometimes have to force myself, because I'm tired at that point, and I'd be like, oh, let me just sit down. And there's nothing wrong with like taking some time for yourself too. But like you said, you also need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, like physically and emotionally, and taking care of your brain. You do that by exercise. You do that by whatever it is. As you were talking through there, it was kind of reminded of what Phil Januszewski was saying a few weeks back when I was talking with him about, how he has a set schedule, and his kids are a little bit older. They're not as old as mine, but they're a little bit older. And it just kind of reminds me of every portion of fatherhood is dealt, you have exhaustion. It's just different. It's just different. And newborn and toddler is, here's the good news for you, man, is probably the highest level of exhaustion. You can
Okay,
breathe a little bit more in general as they get older. So that's the good news. But then
that's good to know.
you find yourself moving towards things like, all right, now I'm the taxi cab driver. I'm chauffeuring my kids to all these 900 different events. It's just a different level of as far as like, it's a different way to approach exhaustion, but it is probably more, it's heavier at the toddler phase. Hey, we've got just a couple minutes. Let's finish up on this. You had mentioned prior to recording that you felt like, oddly enough, that being a dad has helped you become a better teacher. Did you want to share a little bit about
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I think, and I say this with sadness in my heart, I think society and the educational institutions do not equip us or incentivize us or prepare men to be good fathers.
Hmm.
I just really don't think so. I think a lot of the incentives and the way things are structured are to be productive members of society, which is great, but not productive family men. And I do feel like a lot of the lessons and implicit lessons that are learned are almost polar opposites. I find them, at least in my case, to be, I feel like I'm balancing between being a father or being a provider. But I try to look at the silver lining of, well, how can being a father help me be a better teacher? How can being a teacher help me be a better father? What are the lessons I can take? And one of them, and this is hard to describe to people who don't have kids, but having a child makes me so present to the fact that I have other people's children in my classroom.
Hmm.
And that gives me way more patience, way more appreciation, way more compassion, and way more respect for what that means. And, I take that really serious. And, I started teaching 3 months before my daughter was born. And before that, I was a tutor for a really long time. So I was working with kids like crazy. And I have a lot of compassion and patience and all of that. But I noticed that after that 3 month mark, once my daughter was born and I was a 3 month into being a teacher, I felt so different about all the kids that were in my class. I'm like, oh my God, the way that I look at my daughter and feel about my daughter, like their parents hopefully look and feel the same way as them. Um, and so it just gave me this, I guess, like bigger capacity for love and effectiveness. But also, I've learned that classroom management is a lot like toddler management.
Mm-hmm. As well said.
Because
Hurting
uh,
cats
uh,
in
uh,
some cases.
oh, cats that have drank coffee. Um, but and the way I see it is like we're all just toddlers. We
Mm-hmm.
punish them to stop behaviors, we reward them to continue behaviors. Punishments need to be a last line of defense. Rewards are tough because it requires patience and attention, but we need to be intentional about what we reward and punish. And I noticed that when I do that in the classroom too, the students have a much better time.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned, especially with, maybe this was a lesson I kind of slightly interpreted with the boys, and then really got with my daughters, is to be a channel and not a dam.
Hmm.
So they're going to have a lot of energy, and it's not my job to stop it. It's my job to help them put it somewhere. They
Hmm.
won't know where to put it, and if you don't tell them where to put it, you won't like where they put it. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. My daughters found a bunch of stuff in the pantry and just started putting it in the toilet and the sinks. And yeah, I was like, okay, if we're gonna mix stuff, like let's go make a Play-Doh. I was helping them make Play-Doh earlier.
Oh man,
But
fantastic stuff. Hey,
yeah,
real quick, we got 30 seconds. Could
absolutely.
you just share with everybody how they can connect with you if they want to hear more
Yeah,
about you?
absolutely. If you want to connect with me more, I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me Instagram at Mr. Mukiibi, MrMukiibi. I'm also on Twitter, Chris_Mukiibi. I'm not as active on there though, but you can contact me. Or if you just wanted to email me, it's Chris@chrismukiibi.com. I try to keep it simple.
Perfect.
But yeah, that's where you can find me.
I appreciate the conversation, man, and to all the dads out there who are going through toddlerhood, remember it's a phase, and try your best to soak up the little moments, those
Oh yeah,
small
man.
moments. I was saying to Chris before we recorded that, my wife and I now we look back at these little video clips of our kids when they were like 1, 2, 3, and it melts our hearts, and we
Yeah.
kind of forget some of the challenges. I don't forget as easily as my wife does because twins is next level stuff. Especially twins that don't sleep at night was
Man.
extra level of exhaustion. But I will tell you, I would love to be able to go back at least for a few hours and hang out with my kids at that age again. So soak it up the best you can, even though you are fighting exhaustion and all the other challenges. Chris, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Thanks for sticking around. If you got any questions you want answered on the show, or you just want some feedback or want to share some ideas, shoot me an email, dadsallinpodcast@gmail.com, or send me a DM on any of the socials @rechargedfamily. Thanks for listening.